Welcome to Europe Explained, brought to you by the Council of Europe. This podcast series offers a unique window into what we're doing to create a fairer, more democratic Europe. Through conversations with experts and frontline workers, we bring you closer to the issues that matter, from fighting discrimination to upholding human rights, from defending democracy to building laws, systems and institutions that are just, fair and open to all.
Back in 1972, the Council of Europe officially adopted the prelude to Beethoven's Ode to Joy as the European Anthem. In 2004, to celebrate its enduring legacy, the Council released a CD featuring various musical interpretations of this iconic anthem, including a hip-hop version, with lyrics adapted to match the genre. I'm delighted to be joined today by the artist behind this unique rendition. Flo-M is a musician from Freiburg in Germany. To celebrate the 20th anniversary of his special version, Flo-M has updated the track, remixing the music and slightly altering the lyrics. Flo-M, welcome to the Council of Europe.
Thanks, Alan. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. To kick things off, let's hear a snippet of your famous hip-hop take on the European Anthem. Flo-M, perhaps you could tell us first of all about who you are and how you came into contact with the Council of Europe.
Well, I'm a German producer. I was born in Freiburg. We moved to America when I was a kid, and I returned then to attend high school in Germany again. I've been living in Germany ever since, and I found my way into music because I learned playing the trumpet at the age of 9. Trumpet is still one of my favorite instruments, although I don't play it that frequently anymore, because producing music is definitely where my heart is and what I love to do. And, the Council of Europe geographically is pretty close to Freiburg. So growing up here or spending time here, you definitely know about the Council of Europe. And the initial contact with the Council was I think it was back in 1999, when you had your 50th anniversary. And there was a CD that we produced at Waterpipe Records, our old label, featuring all the historical speeches held by very important politicians. And I remember working on that CD, having the old master tapes and transferring them into a digital format, and my colleague creating a wonderful double CD cover. And that was the first time of actually, the Council of Europe really was on my radar.
So fast forward a few years then, from 1999 to 2004, and what gave you the idea of making a hip-hop version of the European Anthem?
It was that my great mentor, Jürgen Fromhertz, who was the boss of the label and the contact to the Council of Europe, came to me one day. It was 2003. It was the late 2003, and he asked me, what is your take on Europe? How do you see Europe? And I said, I see that very positively. I'm very European, and I love the idea of countries coming together, and especially in Freiburg being so close to France. This was always very important for me, that there was no more border between our countries. And I said, yes, I'm very pro-European. And he said, okay, the Council is planning to release a CD featuring new interpretations of the European Anthem. And you know what that is. Yes, that's the Beethoven part and all that. Okay, do you think you can make a hip-hop version? Because that is what the Council was looking for. And I said, well, that's maybe a bit difficult, because hip-hop is very urban and very, dirty and aggressive in a way sometimes. And an anthem and the Beethoven theme, it's a major scale. It's very positive. It's very uplifting. And it's like two worlds that actually don't fit together that well. And I said, you know what? I have a trans version. I made a trance version a couple of years back. I had made a draft, and I thought that was really uplifting, a dance track, where everybody could dance to. And then my mentor said, yes, we're also going to use that, but please try to make a hip-hop version. And so I sat down, and I thought, how can I actually merge these two worlds that in the beginning I thought weren't really compatible? And the muse just came and kissed me, and it was 1 hour and 40 minutes, and I sat down and I wrote the main theme. I wrote the first verse and the first chorus, which basically is the structure, the skeleton on which then the entire version I made later. But that just came and it flowed out of me, and I didn't have to think anymore. And I showed it to my mentor. He said, that's good. You can work with that. And when I had the first draft ready and showed it to the council also was very positive.
Yes, I remember we were very amazed and very pleased at that time with it. And of course, the lyrics are a key part of the success
Absolutely.
of that version. Could you tell us how you were inspired to write those lyrics and what the message behind the lyrics is?
Exactly. So the lyrics took way longer than the music. So, and the lyrics basically consist of 3 parts. So we have the original Schiller poem that I translated into a, more urban English version, and that's the chorus. And then we have, I had liked this idea of greeting all the member states. And I just looked how many member states are part of the Council of Europe, and that's like so many states. And I tried to pronounce every country by its full name, and I realized that, 3 minutes wouldn't be enough time to do so. And I had this idea of using acronyms. And there was a German band called the Fantastic Four, and because Germans really love their acronyms, they made a song consisting only of acronyms. And I thought that might be a nice idea to, shorten the names of the countries into those acronyms and then making a verse out of it and greeting those countries. And so that's how the first verse actually came to being. And later, a journalist, when they made a documentary on my song, said I used the license plate tags, but I checked again, and it's actually not the license plate tags. It's something I came up with. So these acronyms sometimes are the license plates, like CH, for example, for Switzerland, or D for Germany, or F for France. But then there's also, acronyms that don't actually fit the proper license plate. This is just something I came up with. This is my fantasy, but I hope that every country feels mentioned and feels in there. And then the second verse, which actually was supposed to be the main verse, I go into the European history and the actual idea why we are trying to unite Europe. And I mean, that was the ashes of World War II. And after centuries of going back and forth, especially between Germany and France, of wars fought, over insane reasons, and then the final catastrophe, there came this idea, let's work together more or better instead of working against each other. And so this is what I deal with in the second verse, because I wanted to greet the countries first and didn't not put that in later. So the second verse is actually the main message of my song, that out of the destruction we try to come up with the creation of something new and something positive. And at that time, especially in the early 2000s, this idea that Europe would continuously unite and become one and become a unity and a global power, I took that for granted, because it looked as if that was the way to go, not knowing how things might change and how attitudes and opinions might change. But out of this, I think, very pro-European and uniting feel we had back there, that's the intention for the lyrics.
Now, as you remember, back in 2004, when we launched that CD, we had a special concert in the Council of Europe where we had a pianist doing the piano version, and the highlight, of course, was you with your dancers doing the hip-hop version. We filmed it and we distributed it across Europe to many, many television stations, and at least 3 in big countries used it on the national news, the main news. Did the reaction to that hip-hop version that you did, the media reaction, did it surprise you? Did it take you by surprise?
Yes, absolutely. It was overwhelming. And I mean, I really remember that day very well. It was, I had, I think, the master audio done by 10th of January or something, and then we had 2 weeks to prepare the show, and it was really a high pressure preparation, and it was wonderful, and it all turned out beautifully. All the setting here, we had excellent technicians with excellent lighting and sound, and I mean the piano version is a masterpiece, and it was performed so beautifully. And then we could just actually attach our show to that and go full hip hop and urban style with really good dancers. And I really appreciated, and to this day appreciate, that the media response was that positive, and that people found it worthy, to present it in the evening news. And a thing that really amazed me was that the next day I get like 100 missed calls, and like everybody who saw the news all over the place, were calling, "How I always knew that you were going to make it, and remember when we did that?" And everybody wanted to be best friends, and and people I hadn't spoken in years, and that was really funny, and I enjoyed that a lot, and I met a lot of the people, and it was nice to catch up. So that was a wonderful reaction, and it felt nice. And of course, that was like one culminating point, and throughout the years, I wouldn't know where this would go. But the really rewarding thing about the version I made is that it still talks to people, and people are still interested in it, also years later. And I had the opportunity to present it in wonderful places. I remember in 2005, we had a great performance in Warsaw, in the city center, at the European Summit. I was able to present it here in Strasbourg at the Marathon, I believe it was. And we had, so many wonderful official presentations later, and it all started at that special one night at the end of January in 2004.
Yeah, and I can tell you something more, which is that since for the last 20 years, I've been the person at the Council of Europe who deals with requests from all kinds of organizations, not only in Europe, but also across the world, to use different versions of the European Anthem, and they need our permission. And the most popular request is for your version, the hip-hop version. So my next question is going to be, why do you think that it's so attractive and it's got this enduring appeal? What do you think it is about that version that attracts people and makes them want to use it at their events?
Well, first of all, I'm eternally grateful for that, and this is like, I think every musician wants to make this one song that really talks to people, and where people can relate to. And I was always very, well, proud is a word I don't want to use. I'm very happy with the song, because it actually turned out exactly the way I wanted it to be. And like I said, I mean, in the beginning, I had these difficulties of combining the two worlds, and I put all my heart blood in it. And when we then released the single later in 2004, I mean, I also put in a 10-minute version where I really combed through the fourth movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and picked out all the beautiful themes that I also wanted to feature, and I put all that in the long version. And I think it's a very nice, it's very fun to actually listen to, and why people especially respond to it positively, I guess I'm just grateful for that, and I hope that we can keep this European spirit alive even in these challenging times now.
Yeah, and bringing us right up to date today. This year you contacted us with a proposal to update the version after 20 years. What was your motivation for that?
Oh, there was several reasons, and of course, I felt the political background is that we see all these authoritarian regimes coming up, and we see these dreadful election results all over the world with people who actually intentionally are planning to destabilize our structure and our order and to get rid of democracy and turn it into something else. We see the rise of that and all over the world, and this is very frightening for me. And I think I want to give people this positive message. No, there is a good. After the catastrophe, we actually came up with a good idea, and we should pursue this idea, and we should become one. We should become a united Europe, and work with our allies across the world as one. There's no need to fight each other. There's no need to be aggressive towards other people, and so I felt that maybe my anthem or my version of the anthem would become important again, or maybe even important in a new way, because like I said earlier, back in 2004, I took the uniting Europe for granted. Now I think it's at stake, and I just want to do my part that we can actually reach people and make them believe in this idea. And music is a very good way to do that. And then, of course, it's the 20th anniversary, and this is more the personal approach. I wanted to, because everything has evolved. I mean, the sound, the audio engineering has evolved, computers have evolved, and I wanted to actually provide a version that features all of today's possibilities technically. So, and then there was some, like little details only probably I as a creator know we had on the original. I wanted to improve and do differently. And so that was the personal motivation as well.
And as well as the technical aspect, you had to change the lyrics slightly because of world events. If you could perhaps explain why that was.
I remember I gave you the original lyrics, and the two of us went through them, and then we decided, yes, of course, we have to change it. And I mean, one of the major changes is that we had to take out Russia, because Russia is no longer part of the Council of Europe, and so we cannot greet them in our anthem. And that is actually a sad thing to do, but also a very logical thing to do, and a very consequent thing to do. And then, of course, the entire number of people living in Europe from 800 million 20 years ago now is reduced to 700 million, which still is, a huge size, so a huge number of people. So I think, that was the main differences. But then also, then when you actually bring this up, it was very tricky for me, because also me as a rapper, I have changed in 20 years, and not on the outside only, but also on the inside, and my voice has changed. It was pretty tricky to find a medium, like to meet in the middle, like picking up my old style, combining it with a new style, and then putting that all together. So I remember it took me a lot of takes to actually get where I wanted to go with the new recording. Yeah.
And the lyrics, do you believe they're just as relevant today as they were back in 2004?
I think they're even more relevant. It's even more important today, yes, because it isn't for granted anymore.
As well as the lyric change, you had to change the technical side of the recording. And obviously 20 years in technological progress time is an enormous amount of time. So what were the benefits and what were the advantages of this lapse of time for making it better from a technical point of view?
The first thing, and I think every person who is into audio engineering will agree with me, it's total recall. Okay, so in the old studio we had many different standalone devices that all worked together in sync, and it took you extremely long to set up the studio the way you had it. So what this would lead to was insanely long sessions where I would mix, like I pulled all-nighters all night. I pulled all-nighters like in a row, 4 nights in a row, just to get the mix done, because I knew if I left the studio and if there was a different production and they changed the console, then I would have to, it took me hours to get back to where I was, and it wouldn't even sound the same. And I remember also my mentor, Jürgen, said, don't shut down the studio. Keep it running. Don't, take down the electricity. Keep it running, because it's going to sound different the next day. And that was, of course, very stressful. And then, just if you work on something for too long, your ears just stop, like hearing the nuances. And so today, I can work on my project, I can close it, I can work on a different project on the same computer. It's just a matter of seconds to open it, and everything is exactly how I saved it. And that, of course, gives me the opportunity to work in detail much, much better than 20 years ago. That, of course, also now compels me to make it even more perfect. And then I start, like obsessively altering details. And then I always show my wife, and she says, no, just keep that the way it was, because that's perfect the way it is. And that wasn't possible in the old days, so we didn't do that. But then, of course, from the creative and the musical part, and that's actually the interesting part, today, we work at much higher audio resolutions. We have, back then the standard was the 16-bit audio at 44.1 kilohertz resolution, and today we have much preciser files and sounds we can work with. And so we got for 24-bit or 32-bit and sample rates up to 192 or 384, even if you want that. And what that leads to is that when you mix high resolving audio files, they mix much better, and they mix much more crystally, and you can hear every single element now. And this is something that I find extremely beautiful. And it's the same when you look at cinema. The visual technology has evolved so much, and all the details you can now see on the screen. And it's similar with audio. You can just hear everything better. And then my personal achievement here is that now the version actually sounds 100% as I wanted it 20 years ago. And I couldn't do that because the technology wasn't there yet. But now I can use, it's all real instruments. It's a real grand piano I recorded. It's real strings. I have now beautiful orchestra samples and libraries I can use. Everything is real. And that sounds just so much more, I think, beautiful.
Now, looking forward 20 years into the future to 2044, have you already got any ideas for a remix in that period? And also, what kind of world do you hope we'll be living in 20 years' time?
Well, what I would hope for is that we might have a 2004 again, where it becomes sort of the logical thing to do, to live in harmony and be together, to live in democracy and freedom. So this is what I'm hoping for. And then I can simply update the version to the new technical standards we will have in 20 years. What I'm afraid of is that this version might become a resistance song or so. So if we have to fight autocracy or dictatorships, so I hope it'll never get there. But what I really do hope for is that we will live in peace and be prosperous again and believe in a uniting Europe.
Well, let's be optimistic together, and thank you so much for producing this wonderful updated version as well as the original version. And we, on behalf of the Council of Europe, we wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you, Alun, and I also want to thank you for giving me this opportunity again, for having given this opportunity to me 20 years ago. This is all very nice, and like I said, it's this one song in every musician's life where you're eternally grateful for, and you gave me that chance. So thank you very much, Alun, and thank you very much, Council.
It was our pleasure. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Travail tend vers une époque de paix, de prospérité, de plénitude.
Es bedeutet viel, die Form eines echten Zusammenschlusses zu finden.
institution on this ancient continent of Europe.
If you enjoyed this discussion and wish to explore more topics, be sure to check out the episodes of Europe Explained. You can learn more about the Council of Europe and its initiatives at our website, coe.int. And don't forget to follow us on social media for the latest updates and insights. You can find us on X, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.